Good morning. You are welcome here, wherever you're going to, wherever you're coming from. You are welcome here. You are welcome here, wherever you're going to, wherever you're coming from. You are welcome here, 'cause it's a house of love, house of hope and dreams. It's a house of love, and you are welcome here, 'cause it's a house of love, a house of hope and dreams. It's a house of love, and you are welcome here. And now in Spanish. Bienvenido aquí, doquiera que vayas tú, doquiera que vengas hoy. Bienvenido aquí, bienvenido aquí, doquiera que vayas tú, doquiera que vengas hoy. Bienvenido aquí, si este lugar de amor, de sueños e ilusión. A este lugar de amor. Bienvenido aquí, si este lugar de amor, de sueños e ilusión. A este lugar de amor. Bienvenido aquí.
Good morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, or once or twice a year, or are with us this morning for the very first time, we're glad you're here. I'm Patty Carlisle, your worship associate today. Our worship assistants are Alice Dodd and Jessica Schultz. Our worship musician and choir director, Tim McKnight, and our song leader, Alice Dodd. Our tech team is Sarah Komnick, Hope Campbell, and Dean Gaudette. And our greeters are Ron Petzold and Donna Folberg. I and all of the presenters have passed rapid tests this morning, so you will see us participating today without masks on. So welcome to our nearly annual poetry service. Welcome to those of you here in the chapel, and welcome to those of you online. For those of us here in the chapel, you will notice that we have the windows open. This is to ensure good air circulation in the room. There are also 4 air purifiers in the room, so please feel free to leave the chapel at any time if you're uncomfortable for any reason. You'll be able to hear what is happening in the chapel while you're outside in the courtyard. For those of you using Zoom, please notice that there is a chat button on your Zoom menu. You are welcome to use the chat box during the service. Just please be sure to check that the blue box has everyone selected so that everyone can hear what you're sharing. We are always delighted to see newcomers join us in worship. As a newcomer, you might be interested in the groups and activities we offer. And a good way to get this information is through our email newsletter and e-news calendar. For online newcomers, toward the end of the service, there will be a link in the online chat box for adding your name to our email list. In-person newcomers, if you haven't already given us your email address when you signed in, please share it before you leave. Our weekly email is the best way to get information about the many groups and activities we offer here at Chalice. Let us take a breath together.
Good morning. According to the Library of Congress, the first permanent Euro-American settlements began a pattern of displacement and land appropriation of indigenous people that continued until the 20th century. In this region that we consider home, the Kumeyaay first lived here for over 10,000 years and were the people who greeted the Spanish when they first sailed into the San Diego harbor in 1542. With this awareness, we acknowledge that Chalice is located on the stolen, tribal, ancestral homeland of the Apai, which is part of the Kumeyaay Nation, and the Payamkawichem Nation. This acknowledgement reminds us that we live in a history-driven present and that we need to be intentional with this land and with the people indigenous to the land. Mary Lyons from the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe states, when we, the indigenous people, talk about land, land is part of who we are. It is a mixture of our blood, our past, our current, and our future. According to the research done with Reclaiming Native Truth, 40% of Americans do not believe that indigenous people still exist in the US. Chalice hopes that with our first step of land acknowledgement, we can move towards educating ourselves and others about indigenous communities and their rich and diverse culture and create a meaningful relationship with them as well.
We now light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist.
I don't know what to do with it.
I invite Susan Spoto forward to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words come from Deborah Burrell, a member of the UU Church of Birmingham, Alabama. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears for the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace.
I did mute my mic.
It is said that poetry was the first form of writing. In ancient Greece and Rome, many poets used poetry to pass down stories to the next generation. Poetry was defined as a way to remember their past. They sang poetry to celebrate and to come together. And through the ages, it has been transformed into plays to entertain readers and audiences around the world. Why do we read and write poetry? We cling to poems because we want to know we aren't going crazy and that someone out there knows exactly how we're feeling because they have made their private world public, and in doing so, have established a connection with us, a kind of bridge of words that allows us to experience their joy, wonder, fears, doubts, sorrows, and then reflect on our own. Please rise in body or spirit. You're invited to join in singing.
This first hymn, well, both hymns we're singing today will be unfamiliar to us, but this one was written by Willa Cather. Worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend, okay, that's our thingy going off. I'm not the technician. You can tell. Okay, so we'll continue, and the back door. Yes. We tend to the congregation during this time by sharing and honoring our joys and sorrows.
Here in the chapel, you are welcome to write your joy or sorrow on a candle card, which will be collected from you. Online, please write your joy or sorrow, including your name, so that we know who is sharing, and press enter to send it in the chat. These joys and sorrows will be spoken out loud, and then we will remove this part from the service on the recording that goes out to our YouTube channel. No one will be able to publicly view this sharing online. We have a few moments of music, so you can write down what you would like to share. And we light a final pillar candle for all the joys and sorrows that go unshared and unspoken this morning. These too are held in the love and support of this community. Our reading this morning is an excerpt from a poem written by Amanda Gorman entitled, "In This Place, an American Lyric." There is a vocabulary word that I'm going to tell you about that I was unfamiliar with, palimpsest. And what the definition of that is that it's a parchment that has had words erased or scraped off of it to make room for new text. In her poem, it is not a parchment. It is historical timeline. There's a poem in Los Angeles, yawning wide as the Pacific tide, where a single mother swelters in a windowless classroom, teaching Black and brown students in Watts to spell out their thoughts so her daughter might write this poem for you. There's a lyric in California where thousands of students march for blocks, undocumented and unafraid, where my friend Rosa finds the power to blossom in deadlock, her spirit the bedrock of her community. She knows hope is like a stubborn ship gripping a dock, a truth that you can't stop a dreamer or knock down a dream. How could this not be her city? Su nación, our country, our America, our American lyric to write. A poem by the people, the poor, the Protestant, the Muslim, the Jew, the native, the immigrant, the Black, the brown, the blind, the brave, the undocumented and undeterred, the woman, the man, the binary, the non-binary, the white, the trans, the ally to all of the above and more. There's a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worth being told on this minnow of an earth, to breathe hope into a palimpsest of time. A poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here. It is now. In the yellow song of Dawn's Bell, where we write an American lyric, we are just beginning to tell. So now we're ready for some poetry. And I invite John Schultz forward to be our first presenter.
Thank you, Patty. I will be sharing some poetry this morning written by Ralph Peters, who is a member here at Chalice, a longtime member. Ralph couldn't be with us this morning, so I get the honor of reading some of his poetry. He has also written short introductions, and this is the introduction to the first poem. When I was young, I lived in South Baldwin, Long Island, which was a new suburban community. On our block of new homes, there were several older homes that dated back to the turn of the century. Mr. Riker lived in one of these across the street from our house. Now the poem, Old Man Riker. Old Man Riker, a real clam digger, toothless, wizened, shrunken. No one knew how old, but likely Rough Rider, San Juan Hill, Teddy Roosevelt old. He had outlived everyone he knew. We never saw any visitors. He lived in an ancient ramshackle house in the middle of the new split levels with 2-car garages, station wagons, Frigidaires, Sunday roasts, and all the other conventions of post-war Long Island suburbia. Under his shed and back, he had a 1939 Ford with a flathead V8 and the new Synchro 3 on the tree, which, draped in bunting, he would drive proudly in our Memorial Day parade. He raised chickens until the newcomers complained and the alderman said no more. We kids were a little frightened of him, but Mom said he knew his roses, which was somehow comforting to me. One day, Dad walked across the street and knocked on the door. Soon after, an ambulance came and took him away. I asked Dad, where did Mr. Riker go? And my dad rumbled, he was old. Now a haiku that Ralph has written. It helps to know that his wife is from Wisconsin in this haiku. Hatch chilies, pride of New Mexico, were too hot for the Wisconsin gal. And I'm going to sneak one more in here. This was my favorite of the ones he wrote. Yellow, orange, orange-ish. Oh, Velveeta, I could write you a symphony. And now an introduction to the last poem. From the time I was 16 and even after college, I worked on commercial fishing boats, mainly as summer jobs. The Caliban 2 mentioned in this poem was a charter boat home-ported in Freeport, Long Island, which was about a 3-mile bike ride from my home. This poem is also an homage to Captain Lindy, short for Lindstrom, who had an uncanny knack for finding the fish. Now the poem, Larval Days. There was a time, back in the day, when I worked the fishing boats down on Woodcleft Canal. Seabirds wheeling above in the yellow-orange street pre-dawn Long Island morning. The gulls mewing and squawking in their jagged way. crunchy salt air, mingling with the creosote tang of diesel fumes, merging with fresh bait and chum scents. Backed into the slip is the Caliban 2, a 38-foot Bertram with V-chine hulled, twin diesels, a solid craft. Parties of 6 or 8, cops, fishermen, teachers, or insurance agents, mostly showing bravado, but mostly uneasy in their swagger. Our captain, Lindy, will take us to the fish. Blues, tuna, shark, fluke, stripers in those pre-PCB days. Lindy is a salty fellow of an indeterminate age, bald as a billiard ball, and not one for idle chatter. Shirtless, he threw a pack of Winstons and a 6 of Rheingold in his leathery belly by the time we hit the Loop Parkway Bridge. You clear Jones Inlet and the Atlantic chop will hit you like a kick to the gut, a stick bay of sway in the Bernini Bridge. You feel the shudder down the hull, but the Bertram is built to take it. The gill green day trippers are inclined out over the railing, or worse, they're below spewing. Pero demasiado tarde la dramamina. But let us not dwell on unpleasantness. For Lindy, 2 6s of Rheingold down, has found the frothy, frenzied, mad maelstrom of schooling, blues, and tuna, because Lindy always found the fish.
So first, I'm honored to read this poem by our own Marilyn Alberts, inspired by the solemn Jewish holiday of the same name, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, it's a time for remembrance, forgiveness of sins, making amends, atonement for lapses. It comes once a year, and it's serious business. Time for observant Jews to clear the decks for a hopeful new year in which to be a better person. Although I am not privileged to be a Jew, for me, every year brings back the same memory. Long ago, my son brought me a twig with a fuzzy caterpillar chewing on its green leaves. We poked some holes in a jar lid to watch how it created a new home and what would become of it as we fed and tended it. The caterpillar munched its way into a comfortable chrysalis sleep. There wasn't much to watch, and life got busy. You know how it is. Weeks later, I found the jar lost in a dusty corner, splattered with the shreds of butterfly wings battered against the glass. A once beautiful, innocent, living thing slaughtered by my thoughtlessness. Too ashamed to confess to my son, he would have to learn someday in his own way the unforgivable sin of forgetting to care. So beautiful. My poem is a little bit lighter. The 5 remembrances of the Buddhist canon remind us that change is inevitable and that we're all subject to aging, ill health, and death. Reflecting on these facts encourages us to cherish each precious moment of our short lives and to engage in right action without wasting time. But, you know, some of us are lousy students. So smile with me as I laugh at myself as I read my poem, The Long Future. The long future. Certain of my own immortality, I save up for the long future. A career of saving was prudent, and prudence now guides a mind shift from accumulation to sensible drawdown. Procrastination is an investment that pays off in busy days to come. I've stockpiled wait lists and wish lists and watch lists. I have fabric that wants thread, paper that wants ink, books that yearn to be read, miles that cry to be walked, friendships that long to be tended. Certain of my own immortality, heedless of the days that want living and the tasks that want doing, as the past grows, but the future never shrinks. Wistful for accomplishments and completions, I spend my time in off-budget moments. Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play?
I'm Jessica Schultz. And the poem I'm going to share with you today is written by Lynn Unger, a Unitarian Universalist minister who lives in Vancouver. Some of you may be familiar with her vibrant poetry because she often shares it online. This poem, titled Yo-Yo Ma Plays Bach at the Border, is based on an event that occurred on a Saturday morning in April of 2019. Yo-Yo Ma brought his cello to the Juarez-Lincoln International Bridge, which connects the twin cities of Laredo, Texas, and Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. And there he played Bach's Suite No. 1 for unaccompanied cello. In comments that he made before he started playing, he said, "A country is not a hotel and it's not full," referring statements that President Trump had made on border security not long before, in which the president declared America to be full. "A country is not a hotel," says Yo-Yo Ma, standing with his back to the river that is only a small part of what divides two nations. He means that a country doesn't get full and that there is always a vacancy. Sometimes we forget what that vacancy is, what is still missing. On the other side of the river, women speak Spanish as they clean rooms in actual hotels, doing the hard work of making a life in a country where there is so much shouting about the danger they are supposed to represent, where they mostly know as fear the knock on the door. How do we know what is full? Ma's smile is full, as is his cello's warm singing. There are vacancies on either side of the river, gaps in our humanity, gaps in our understanding of what it means to build a bridge. There are gaps in our imaginations that limit the stories we can hear, the stories we can tell. Yo-Yo Ma has come to tell the story that is the fullness of his music, the fullness of his love of crossing borders, the fullness that comes from complicated intersections. There is a vacancy in this country. There are gaps that could be full of intricately woven music.
The Chancel Choir is about to sing for you a setting of the Langston Hughes poem, In Time of Silver Rain. Our setting is by Canadian composer Sarah Quartel. Incidentally, a different musical setting can be found in our gray hymnal. American poet Langston Hughes wrote In Time of Silver Rain in 1947. On the surface, the poem describes how, out of the darkness and despair of winter, nature creates new life each spring. There may be a deeper meaning hidden, however. The poem could be interpreted allegorically, In 1947, when the poem was written, Europe, with the help of the world, was rebuilding after the devastation left in the wake of World War II. Perhaps winter is World War II, and perhaps spring is the rebuilding of lives and the rebirth of hope and joy that followed the war. I'll let you decide what you think as first I recite the poem and then the choir sings Sarah Cordell's beautiful musical setting. In time of silver rain, the earth puts forth new life again. Green grasses grow and flowers lift their heads, and over all the plain, the wonder spreads of life, of life, of life. In time of silver rain, the butterflies lift silken wings to catch a rainbow cry, and trees put forth new leaves to sing in joy beneath the sky. As down the roadway, passing boys and girls go singing too, in time of silver rain, when spring and life are new.
We have another grouping of poets, and Alice Dodd will start us off.
This first poem is by Julia Fogle, who for some reason couldn't be here just because she's in Egypt. Poems, like old photos or oral or written family histories, can help us honor our ancestors and the work they did. They can remind us of our roots and describe the future generations' way of life that's no longer practiced. Here's one such poem by Julia Fogle. Trackman is the title. My father was a trackman, working with his crew to keep the trains a-comin', chugging right on through. In summertime, he slung the sledge to hold the ties in place, while summer heat beat down on ruddy neck and face. In wintertime, he shoveled switches so trains could change their tracks. The cold wind blows, chills nose and toes, even reaches through his clothes to touch his aching back. Blue-striped cap upon his head, he walks on out the door. Don't forget the bucket, packed the night before. Now his old lunch bucket sits high upon my shelf. No sandwiches or thermos, it sits there by itself. Arthritic arms with elbow knobs no longer ache and pain. The years fly by, yet still I spy with inner eye his wave goodbye to clear the tracks and fix the rail for the old Penn Central train. My father enjoyed writing poetry. He loved poetry in general. And this one is, and he had a sense of humor also, as you'll see in a moment. This is about, I don't know if you remember when pet rocks were a gag gift. Well, he found that funny, so he wrote a poem to the perfect pet, Marshall Dodd. This pet rock was found in Hoboken. It makes the most wonderful pet. It's guaranteed fully housebroken, and it hasn't messed any lawns yet. It requires no food or fresh water. You don't walk it, it won't run away. It obeys the command to be silent or lie still the whole blessed day. As to tricks, it rolls over when placed on a hill. Or plays dead if that's what you wish. It requires less care than a cat or a dog or a parrot or even a fish. You can leave it at home unattended while you tour the Hawaiian Isles. And if placed on the floor, it won't dart out the door. And it never leaves piles. So treat it with love and with kindness. Place it safely upon a wide shelf. For it'll only bring woe if it's dropped on your toe. And it can't propagate by itself. My father adored my mom. Ironically, they were Julia and Marshall, as the Fogles are Julia and Marshall. So he wrote this, an ode to Julia. Now, cheddar cheese, said one old sage, grows sharper with advancing age. It also gathers quite a smell like a herd of goats in a corral. But wine grows mellow, am I right, as aging takes away its bite. Its value too and rich bouquet improves with every passing day. And you, dear wife, like heady wine, more precious grow with fleeting time. You warm my heart, my senses please. I love you. Signed, your cheddar cheese. There's one more. I may need some help on this. It's on the passing of Julia, my wife for 65 years. It hardly seems that you've gone away. Each thing I see and touch has known your care. Though busy tasks benumb my loss each day, the twilight brings the pain. You are not there to cook and eat our evening meal together and share the kitchen chores when we were through, or watch the TV news and local weather, nor share the bedtime kiss we used to do. Dear girl, I was 19 when I first met you. For 69 sweet years, I've been your beau. You gave my life a reason to be living. You were the loving anchor of my soul. Excuse me. So now I weep alone. My heart is broken, for the sunshine of my life has turned to rain. Somehow, somewhere, once more, we'll be together. True love like ours I'm sorry, exacts its price of pain.
Her name was Hildy. I grew up in the 30s and 40s in an Archie Bunker house in Queens Village, Long Island. The New York City boundary was right across the street from my house. There were lovely trees and birds over there. My 4 sisters and I loved to sing harmonies. We sang each evening, gathering around my mom as she played the baby grand piano. My mother's name was Hildegard, and she spoke English and German. My dad was as Irish as can be. He worked all his life from the age of 14 to H.J. Hines. This poem is for them. And her name was Hildy. And her name was Hildy, and she played a mean piano. And his name was Ed, and he wore a gray fedora that he tipped at all the ladies as he walked down the avenue in New York City in a time recalled with love. Oh yes, Mama, I remember you. Sweet Mama with so much to do, 6 children and more problems too. Play more, Mama, I would love to sing. Play more, Mama, Joan, Jane, and Pat would ring. She was always good at laughing. She was always good at caring. She was best at playing the piano. And her name was Hildy, and she played a mean piano. And his name was Ed, and he wore a gray fedora that he tipped at all the ladies as he walked down the avenue in New York City in a time recalled with love. Oh, Papa, I remember you. Mr. Scholler was so much to do. 6 children and more problems too. Sometimes we would walk on the edge of New York City, and we'd look for the Indians that my father said were there. Well, we never found an Indian, but we enjoyed the walking and the stories that were so convincing. Oh, Papa, sometimes you were a problem. What can I say about that now? Sometimes the days were stark, and we were frightened in the dark. We didn't understand that he was hurting inside, that she was hurting inside. Wherever you might be, I hope that you love me, and that you know that I can see how much I love you now. It took a long, long time to understand what you had given me, but that's the way it is. Yes, that's the way it is. And her name was Hildy, and she played a mean piano. And his name was Ed, and he wore a gray fedora that he tipped at all the ladies as he walked down the avenue in New York City in a time recalled with love.
Hi, everyone here in the chapel, and hello to all of you out there in Zoom land. I'm Barry Hacker, and my poem was inspired by COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020, and it's called Hope. Hope is merely just a fraction of putting something into action. But I think hope is where it starts to change some minds and touch some hearts. I know some people can't be changed. It's not up to us to rearrange exactly what they may believe, although some say the truth will set you free. Hope is more than just a word, a plea we hope that someone's heard. Hope can help you to be strong. Hope can be your anthem song. Hope is something that you own and at some point must leave alone. Just put it out there and see what transpires. To see if hope can smother the hateful fires. There may be words still needing to be said, hopeful thoughts still spinning in my head. Words and thoughts may be a strong beginning, but they're not enough to change the world we live in. As I said before, it takes real action to achieve some sort of satisfaction. And when I think of how it can come to be, it all has to start with HOPE. Thank you.
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron writes, generosity is an activity that loosens us up by offering what we can, $1, a flower, a word of encouragement. We are training in letting go. Please text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, know that once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to follow to enter your credit card information. If you have already entered this information previously when you donated, you won't need to enter it again. If your Sunday donation is meant to be part of your pledge, please be sure to indicate pledge, the word, after the dollar amount. The phone number for text donations will be on the screen in a moment. Please give generously. And now, our last offering of poetry, a song written and performed by John Schultz.
Thank you, Tom. That's great. Whoa. Stay there, boy. Thank you, Patty. This song I wrote, you know, as you use sometimes, we get the label of the religion that doesn't believe in anything, and you know, I've heard it said you don't believe in anything, right? So this song is meant as a statement from me saying, hey, here, hold my beer a second. Well, I believe we're all in search of something, a place to care and in turn be cared for. And I believe that's why we're here together, to bridge that gap, open that door. And I believe we can weave our lives together, joy and sorrow, strand by strand. And I believe this only makes us stronger, taking the time to understand. Oh, I believe. And I believe in the power of forgiveness, and in the grace of not needing to be right. And I believe that the truth we find between us can lead from the darkness to the light. And I believe there is no higher power than the trust that's built between two friends. And I believe we only have this moment to make a choice, to take a stand. Oh, I believe. Yes, I believe in the power of love, and I believe in the willing heart. I believe that there's not too late, but I believe that it's time to start. Yes, I believe in the power of love, and I believe in the willing heart. I believe we all have a place, and I believe we are works of art. I believe. But then I see the walls we build between us, and in the fear of trying to let go of the pain and the guilt we carry with us, and the safety in being alone. So here I stand on the edge of that great chasm, and I see you on the other side. Let's reach out and close this gap between us. May these words be our guide. Oh, I believe. Yes, I believe in the power of love, and I believe in the willing heart. I believe that it's not too late, but I believe that it's time to start. Yes, I believe in the power of love, and I believe in the willing heart. I believe we all have a place, and I believe we are works of art. I believe, I believe. I believe.
And now a moment of reflection. These words come from Maureen Killeran. May hope's light guard us and keep cynicism from our hearts. May the energy of laughter build endurance for the dark times of our lives. May the oil of healing keep us from anger's hardness or despair. May the mantle of humility, give courage to admit when we are wrong. May compassion's loom weave in us the discipline to forgive. May peace be ever in us and sustain us throughout our days. Please rise in body or spirit to sing.
This hymn is written by the words, I should say, the lyric, written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. We sing of golden mornings.
This service, you can probably all sit down. I'd like to remind newcomers online to use the link in the chat box to add your name to our email list. Our closing words come from Shel Silverstein's poem, The Bridge, which is a beautiful metaphor for the power of poetry, its ability to stir our thoughts and imaginings and then inspire us to explore our responses to it. This bridge will only take you halfway there, to those mysterious lands you long to see, through gypsy camps and swirling Arab fairs and moonlit woods where unicorns run free. So come and walk a while with me and share the twisting trails and wondrous worlds I've known. But this bridge will only take you halfway there. The last few steps you'll have to take alone. And I invite Jessica forward to extinguish the chalice. And we're now ready to rise as you're willing or able to sing the well. And after the closing hymn, please return to your seats for an announcement.
I have two announcements for today. First is an update on our fundraising campaign. As of Wednesday, our Powering into the Future fundraising campaign has raised $6,050. This is a great start, but our goal is $32,000. So we need many more contributions. Any donations will be matched by the spirit level grants that have been approved for Chalice. If you'd like to write a check today, Victoria Fogle is here and will collect them for deposit this week. Thank you to everyone who's contributed so far. And if anyone has questions about the campaign, I'll be on the courtyard after the service to answer them. Now, switching hats. I now have my safety and security committee hat on. As people are gradually returning to campus, our safety and security protocols need to be updated and to be reestablished. You may have already noticed that we're not unlocking the chapel doors during services unless our monitor goes off and we have to open them up for air circulation. I've also asked Chris O'Connor to lock the doors of the hub as well during service to protect our children. If parents need access to the hub during a service, you would just go to the door on the left with the keypad and you would knock and someone for the nursery can let you in. So next Sunday, we're going to have an evacuation drill from the chapel and the hub at the conclusion of the service. And now that our construction project is done, we have these lovely flat sidewalks that go along the side of the chapel, which will make it easier for us to exit out onto Miller Avenue. So during the drill, those in the rear of the chapel, say from where Jeff Hayes, raise your hand, Jeff, and Ed Hall are sitting, people further back in the chapel from there would exit out the west door and go out to the sidewalk and then down onto Miller. And if you're in the front part of the chapel, everybody else would exit out these double doors and walk around the chapel on the sidewalks and again out the driveway onto Miller. We can do it this way now because we no longer have the route that goes around the whole building. So we would not be crossing where any emergency vehicles would be coming in. Let's see. And we will have some folks stationed along the route to guide you. So this will be done at the end of the service. And if you're mobility challenged, ask you to just please exit out the doors and go on to the courtyard. Chris O'Connor and the RE leaders will guide the children out of the hub door by the kitchen, and they will go out down to the corner of Hamilton and Miller using the gate that's near the flagpole. Again, if you have questions about this, you can see me after the service. I will be out on the courtyard. Thank you.
For the online folks, please remember that coffee hour is now in the same Zoom room as the service. So if you'd like to chat with folks, don't exit this meeting. Just stay tuned and you'll be in the coffee hour. And this information is for our in-person congregants. Please join us for social hour on the courtyard, where masks are optional. Or in the spirit of caring, you could take your refreshment into the blue room and have a visit with our online congregants. Some have been unable to attend Chalice for a long time now and would enjoy the fellowship of your company. As usual, remember that children younger than 5 years old may not be fully vaccinated, so please be careful around them. Coffee and refreshments are waiting for you on the far side of the courtyard by the hub kitchen. Enjoy.